Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week we watched Trigun. The original manga series was written and illustrated by Yasuhiro Naito and published in America by Dark Horse. Trigun originated from Naito's fascination with Western movies. Naito wanted Vash to be different from cowboys in Western movies by avoiding killing enemies and instead exploring the characters involved in each story arc. Trigun was adapted into a 26-episode anime television series by Madhouse. It appeared in Japan in 1998. It started broadcast in the United States as part of Cartoon Network's Adult Swim programming back in 2003. For this episode, we watched 3 episodes. The first episode, The $60 Billion Double Dollar Man, Episode 9, Murder Machine, and then Episode 6, Lost July. Now, Nick.
Yeah.
You're the one who suggested the episodes for this show. Why did you specifically choose episodes out of order?
So, when I'm selecting episodes, curating an experience, and putting on a show, I'll do this for Anime Night a lot. There is something about trying to capture the ethereal nature of like when you would watch a show and only catch it on TV and only sometimes. So like if it was in syndication, maybe sometimes you would miss an episode in the middle. Sometimes you would see like 2 episodes at the end, miss it for 3 weeks, at which point it had looped around and they were showing first episodes again. So part of it is going with that, and that I think this show weirdly works in that like the storyline is pretty sort of continuous and things occur in order, but also they are for a while at least they managed to be pretty self-contained. This was actually a hard one to do it with because of like there are some 2-parters. I think specifically 7 and 8 are very explicitly a 2-part, but also very connected right before and after. But I think this really worked. But the other reason is because this show, I think, really deals in like long reveals, long mysteries. And I was trying to think specifically for our little charcuterie version of it, what is a nice sort of like build up of what the mysteries are. So in 1, we get the intro, and it's a good intro. It's really about, the rumors of Vash and all of that. 9, we do see it's like a nice middle piece of story. It feels like it could fit in any middle piece. And also we get Wolfwood, who my boy Wolfwood, we'll talk about him in a bit, I'm sure. And then episode 9 is the one where episode 6, which happens before the Wolfwood, ends up being one of the first times we really hear about the July incident, which is one of those like, hey, this happened, we're coming in after it, but also it is like a major turning point, and there are reveals that are necessary to understand what it is and why it happened. And I just figured that would be an incredible one to end on, to make you go like, oh wait, this show is about something else. There's something else going on here. Oh, okay. Like that's the thing. Like this show spends a long time sort of being like, oh, there's other stuff going on here, before it really gets into telling you what it is and why it is. And it kind of doesn't even totally do that, as I recall. It's been a while since I've seen the entire series.
I was going to say, Joe, as our research gremlin, riddle me this. Was the Trigun manga complete when this show was airing and finished?
Ooh. There's two manga series. There's Trigun and there's Trigun Maximum. The first series was only 2 volumes, and then Trigun Maximum was like 12 or 13, I think. It originally was serialized in 1995 to 97.
And did Max? Is that including Maximum?
27. No, I think that's just the original.
Okay.
And then Maximum continued until 2000.
Okay, because the reason I ask is
Mhm.
I never, for whatever reason, still to this date, haven't gone and read the manga or tried to find it.
Mm.
And one thing that was, and I'm sure we'll come up with later shows at some point, there was a big issue with 90s anime that they would be releasing series on television for manga series, source material, that wasn't finished by the time their typically 26 or so episode run was complete. And I remember watching the last episode of Trigun and still going, huh? and just kind of getting this abrupt feeling of a conclusion that didn't really, unlike, without revealing anything about Bebop's ending, which, like, okay, this is an ending. I accept it because we got there narratively. I just remember Trigun's ending being like, boy, we just kind of hit the brakes. And I remember watching this again, and I started wondering that.
Yeah, the anime covers the first 2, the original like Trigun volumes. Because what happened was it was airing in a certain magazine, and then the magazine shut down, and then it got picked up by another one.
Oh.
So Trigun Maximum is everything that was in that second publication. But the anime covers the Trigun volume and half of the first volume of Max.
So I feel like that kind of says yes and no at the same time. It's not because of
Yeah.
A, but it is because of something. Okay, I can accept that. And before we go into like talking about the actual watching, sorry to hold you in suspense there, Bob. With surprise, Bob. Guess what? There's a new version of this show coming out, a remake of Trigun.
Right.
Oh,
And
right.
between that and rewatching this, I started wondering, wait a minute, because I remember reading the articles with the new announcement of the new Trigun being released. Is this the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood scenario? You had a incomplete source material or something with the source material that wasn't available in full at the time. And so we got an anime original ending. And now we're getting a up-to-date release that is able to encapsulate and incorporate that which was not there or available originally. And the more I'm hearing, the more I'm starting to believe that's the case.
Oh yeah, I love the manga. My brother has the entire series on his bookshelf. Where was I going with this though?
The new anime, it does cover more.
I don't remember how the story is distributed so much between it, but I'm pretty sure everything you need to know to make the anime they used. Like, I think it's just kind of more stories, but like his origin and like who he is and stuff was known.
Okay.
But yeah, also the new series titled Trigun Stampede is set to premiere January 2023.
Happy birthday to me.
Also, there was a movie in 2010.
Badlands Rumble?
Yeah, there was, yeah. So with that all out of the way, Bob, why don't you rehash for us episodes 1, 9, and 6? We'll start with 1.
All right, so we're starting with the very first episode, the 60 billion double dollar man.
Yes.
We start off in a bar with a couple people talking, and I thought that, because I personally watched the dubbed, I did not watch the subtitled.
Okay.
And when they said the 60 billion double dollar man, I thought that there was an interpretation error.
Nope.
Nope.
A double dollar.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just what the currency is called.
And they're just sitting there chatting about this typhoon. Goes through, it's a person, goes through destroying towns, killing people indiscriminately. Of course, that's a sign that that needs to happen here too. Because there's this whole gang that comes up and shoots down the bar where all these people are at. And it's with such strength that the whole building goes flying. Cue Big Bad, who looked like Dr. Robotnik's drunken uncle, shows up.
Oh my god, you're right.
And there's just one person still sitting there at the bar, and everyone's shocked because all these bullets should have hit him but didn't.
Because
That's when we get
the sign conveniently fell right in front of him.
what luck. We got introduced to our protagonist, Vash. Vash?
Vash.
Yes. And we don't know that that's his name at this point, but that's who he is, and we're like, oh, I recognize you. You're from the cover of all the different videos. Hijinks ensue. He escapes. Find out later he was out of bullets. Which was entertaining. He is out to get, I don't know, Uncle Robotnik. And then he's trying to hide from him because of lost bullets. An old guy happens across him by stepping on his head while he's hiding underground. He has to come up for air. He knocks out the old man, and it's at this point, a little bit later, that he explains that he doesn't kill people. Which, in all honesty, I do appreciate with this series. It's kind of an interesting take for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, this is the first time I've actually did this. I actually did research after.
Ooh.
Man.
I'm so proud of you, Bob. If I could, I'd give you a big ol' hug.
I do know that he does people. It's through extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
But in this particular episode, he does his best to make sure that everyone comes out alive. So he meets Bad again, who previously he had a bad guy go after him, who, regardless of what Vash could say, he didn't care. You must lead a lonely life. You must need a girlfriend. This, that, and the other. Bad guy doesn't care. Vash doesn't even do anything to him. The big bad comes up. And
You've ignored our bounty hunter friend, who's also looking for Vash and insinuates himself into the chaos.
That's right, old man Root.
Loose
I
Ruth.
was like, loose Ruth. Thank you, because I couldn't help but giggle. Come on, Ruth.
Yeah.
You need to look more burly. Ruth is convinced that Drunkle Robotnik is actually Vash, because the description that he got was a guy wearing red, mohawk. To be fair, Vash does not really have a mohawk. He's just got the whole anime spiked hair. Neither here nor there. Because of all this, we also got introduced to Millie and Merrill,
Millie and Merrill, yes.
insurance agents. Which they grow on me, Millie and Merrill. To be introduced as insurance people looking for Vash because of all the destruction. But I appreciate them for who they are.
Especially tall, big ol', lovely, adorable cinnamon roll Millie, who we get the typical classic anime introduction of, oh, she's not just lovely, adorable, she also carries around the biggest gun.
Yes, that's right, because we meet them in the bar.
Yeah, the after action, yeah.
The strap breaks.
She just casually knocks out a guy turning around with that thing like it's nothing.
Anyway, girls get captured. Guy saves them. It's a really super summation of the ending. But we see that Vash is a marksman. He is worthy of that title. He does have a checkered past. And for a first episode, I appreciate it because it introduces a character who you can tell is making amends in its own way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, we really don't get much of it in this episode, but I think, like, the major thing in kind of the whole show is it is revolving around Vash and his conflict to, you know, cause as little harm as possible. And it really goes into that, but, like, yeah, that's just, like, that.
Shows you the lengths he'll go to avoid.
Things always go to shit around him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel bad about that because I've seen posters of this. I know people who actually like Trigun, but they've never talked about it, and I didn't ask outside of insulting versus third gun, which that gets revealed.
Well, you haven't seen the third gun. You've seen 2 of the guns.
Yes, in this episode, you only see 2 of the guns. But wasn't expecting the humor element.
Yeah. So we did kind of breeze past the intro of this show, which another banger. I feel
90s rock guitar and drum intro, yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like soon we'll need to start the sort of ranking of bangers of anime openings. It's like, okay, Tank from Cowboy Bebop and this song from Trigun.
Oh, okay. I will take ownership of keeping that list.
And right now, it's Bebop is better. This one is better than Agretsuko.
Yeah.
Agretsuko. Yep.
Didn't we watch one other already? Oh,
There was
Arcane.
Arcane.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Imagine Dragons.
That was
on
Imagine
bottom,
Dragons.
On a positive note, having a bottom is a good thing.
Yeah.
So let me also
put in the marker because I know where your mind went.
I'll say,
Okay.
Bob, first, phrasing. Second, so
yes,
are you saying that Arcane's intro is the bottom? Phrasing?
It is not a particular take of anime, so I don't feel it is a higher ranking than ones that are more traditional.
So, as I have it, I have, starting from the bottom up, knock it off, children. That's at me. Arcane, Agretsuko, Trigun, Bebop. Correct? Okay.
That personal opinion.
All right. I will get the titles added in later, but I just want to make sure I've got that on paper for now.
Speaking of Cowboy Bebop, I feel like that's an interesting show to contrast this one to because they both have that kind of Western vibe to it.
Yeah.
But that and Cowboy Bebop, it's in space and you're going like between planets and there's a lot of time just in the ships between planets and stuff. Whereas this one, you're on a desert planet and the vibes are a little more Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, like when you're talking about Drunko Robotnik, which I love that. There's definitely an element there of just this big man larger than life. Like the show has some weird swings between like it is very Cowboy Bebop-y, and it's like, okay, it's about bounty hunters and it's about laymen and just, you know, people doing their town to town thing. There's like a lot of just like downplayed realism to it. And then the big man comes out with his boomerang and cuts the top off of the bar in one throw, and it's just like, oh, okay, so we're going to be goofy about this too. All right. And it's just this fun mix of just like, okay, this isn't reality as we know it, but it's enough different to be like over the top and in a fun way, but you still don't actually need to like suspend your disbelief or learn too much about a new universe, like other than it's just like, yeah, it's different enough that we can have some fun with it, but other than that, you'll get it. Wild West.
I will also contribute that this Vash is part of the ever-growing list of one of my favorite tropes of the crouching moron, hidden badass. Because when we see him in this first, no, he's I'm going to shoot my gun at you. Click, click, click. Oh, it's out of bullets. And wink, wink, nudge, nudge. How he didn't know it was out of bullets. He absolutely knows it was out of bullets. And all of his little tactics, his moronicness, his moronic nature, buffoonery. Ooh, it was actually very strategic in how to try and disarm and deal with his adversaries with a non-violent approach. Which also, just to give away some early final thoughts, minus the fact he will actually kill if push comes to shove. With that big long coat, all I'm thinking is, and the brooding nature he kind of also has, boy, I'm thinking 2005 to now Doctor Who. I don't fight, I don't kill, but I've got this tragic backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And
Yeah,
I've done
okay.
this terrible thing, and so I'm convinced at this point in my notes by the end of this, I said, I'm pretty sure Russell T Davies just watched this, like the Wachowskis watched Ghost in the Shell.
And notably, I think that the tone of the show, that like comedy over like a deeper, more serious like foundation, is mirrors his personality as well.
Oh
Because
yes,
like that's his deal.
yeah. This guy clearly wants to live a peaceful, happy life, but circumstances unknown to the audience at this point, if you're just now seeing it, prevent that for one reason or another.
Can we get a show of hands of how many people here have wanted to wear or own Vash's coat?
Don't judge me.
Yeah, no,
I think I would. Yeah.
like that's the thing. The very last shot of the opening, and like everything about Vash when he's not talking. Let's go with that for now. Like he like was kind of a template for early aughts like anime badass, I think, in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. The aesthetic, yeah.
And I was trying to determine if he can't be the first like secret genius doofus protagonist in anime. I
mean Roshi. Well, Protag. I'm sorry, you said Protag.
Yeah, like he's the idiot secret genius Obi-Wan. Thank you.
Yeah, you are correct.
But like I know later it would be like Trinity Blood is the big one I think of. I've heard of Captain Tyler. I think that was earlier at least, but I also I'm really not familiar with it. But like
I say that.
But I'm trying to think, like, because of when this came out, it was on TV, it was on Toonami, and no, Adult Swim, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Adult Swim.
Captain Tyler did come out first.
I want to say he may have like popularized the secret genius doofus character trope for the Western anime audience, at least.
I think he is responsible for, definitely, if not directly, very chief among those responsible for two archetypes: the crouching moron, hidden badass, yes, but also the I'm a loner wearing a big, interestingly designed, admittedly, because I'd never seen a high collared jacket like that IRL.
Yeah.
But the complicated leather coat and sunglasses optional motif, because both of those seem to really take off after when this aired. Was what, 1999? I know it had to be 1999.
Yeah, like that coat and those glasses were the face that launched 1,000 anime magazine centerfold posters, you know?
Not only that, 1,000 bland anime pro tags.
Yeah.
Belts, buckles, and boots.
But Bob, to what you were saying earlier, like through osmosis, you learn about Vash, and like you get the posters, and you know about this sort of like badass loner aesthetics kind of thing. But like, yeah, when you get into the show, like especially, you know, early on in the series, like we were looking at, he is a goofball. He's like a goofball and a womanizer, and like he's trying to do this I don't kill moral upstanding, and like, yeah, it's the side of him that like I don't know if nobody.
It's not what I was expecting.
Yeah, it's so weird compared to like the way he has seeped into like a wider cultural memory.
And the marketing, because let's be honest, all of what you've seen is part of the marketing. It is the best case of marketing and aesthetic, not what's actually present.
Yeah.
And I love it.
It's a good aesthetic. I love it.
Well, it's one of those, like, I remember my introduction to Trigun was a friend of mine in the Catholic high school.
Okay, okay.
I went to a Catholic high school for most of my high school career. Sitting next to me in my Western Civ class says, "Hey," he's like, "what do you think of Trigun?" I'm like, I'd love to watch it, but it's on, late, and I don't always get to catch it, and it's, it's just kind of a victim of circumstance thing. He says, I've got the whole DVD set, back when those were like $50-$60.
Mhm.
Oh man, yeah. And he's like, "You want to borrow?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I do."
Uh-huh.
Give me that. And I remember just like not necessarily staying up late, but it's 9:00. Okay, I'm gonna just load up a couple episodes and keep watching this till I'm done throughout the week. And that's exactly what I did. And it's the aesthetic. Looking at all the covers of each individual box or each individual DVD case, and the overall box container because I think it was a box set at the time, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
And I'm like, nothing on that. And until you get to the back and you see maybe a couple stills, maybe one of those indicated, oh, there might be a little humor in this. But then you watch them like, oh, this is essentially DBZ, or not even DBZ, Dragon Ball-esque style humor, in the sense of there is clearly, yes, moments of seriousness when they have to happen, but your main character is not the most serious person in the world.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this a little bit, but like the style of humor is anime Waka Waka. Or, at least when he's putting up his front, like that's what he's going for. Like, especially when you look at like the exaggerated animation style he gets in those moments. And I was noticing the sound effects, like you get sproings and clangs like it's a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Mhm.
And the creator's cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kurnika.
That style of humor, this is more to my taste, but I actually think it sort of is a problem for the show. Like, if that style of humor was taken out, I think this show could rank like right next to Cowboy Bebop, because everything else is like it's sci-fi, there's mystery, it's like dark, but like there are still funny things going on even in just like premise. But then they're just like, hey, waka waka, and then it blows it. Like it almost like ruins my immersion in those moments. I don't know.
I recommend you hold on to that thought because that'll premiere in my final thought.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I've got some things to say.
Okay. Well, all right, just one
No,
more.
it's not bad. It's really where you're heading is kind of where my thought process is going.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that came off rather ominous. It's more of, I was trying to say, yeah, I've got some thoughts as well. They're not bad, but they're not what I expected.
But okay, can we talk about still staying on like premise humor? I love, especially in this first episode, that it's like we are kind of getting the most like perspective we follow is of the two girls who are insurance adjusters.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they are absolutely the audience insert.
But that is such a like novel,
A good one.
it's like a classic literature set in London thing to do. It's like Dracula or Jekyll and Hyde or something like that. It's just like, no, we're gonna see it through this like kind of like day-to-day business crat something. It's just like, oh, you're just like a mundane businessman and now you have to watch this wacky stuff happen. Like I like that setup.
I like how you tied that into the Dracula, because in my notes, early on when they're describing Vash, no one seems to know what Vash absolutely looks like. They've got these very generic descriptions, and my note in there is like, Vash is just anime Paul Bunyan. Everyone has heard the
Oh.
legend. He is this bigger, no pun intended, to the Paul Bunyan metaphor, than life character. And I said Paul Bunyan meets kind of like Billy the Kid. He is this gunslinger. Everyone, quote unquote, knows what he looks like, because I put that in multiple times. Everyone knows what Vash looks like, in quotes. Because anyway, as long as someone meets like kind of a minor bit of that description, that's Vash the Stampede. And it's like, is it though? And that's one of the things for the Western-esque setting it has that I loved. It's very true. Well, unless you had like a wanted poster that moderately depicted what the person actually looked like, what do they look like? Well, they have a mustache. Well, everyone with a mustache must be Vash the Stampede. No, everyone with a mohawk is. And I loved that for storytelling, because it made it very interesting how Vash could get about. Whereas in like a Bebop setting, you can have a picture of what Spike and Jet look like. You're not getting past someone.
It wasn't one of the episodes we watched for Bebop, but they basically have that exact episode for the Radical Edward intro.
Oh, that one, yeah. Oh, wow, yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Ooh.
So the amount of parallels between this and Bebop are it just like I don't know. Like, I've always thought of this show really high. Like even the dub. Like, I also watch the dub because this is, if you ask me like, yeah, if you ask me like what is an early example of like a good dub, this is one of the first ones I think of. Which I don't even know if that's fair, but just like, I don't know. There's so many parallels to like a Cowboy Bebop level. I think it's like, this is below Bebop, but it's up there.
You know, with the parallel you're drawing between the two, that is a conversation I want to have, but for another show that we will very soon be getting to.
Okay.
I want to save that because there's information here I am holding back from Bob that is not really overall relevant to the story of Trigun, or Bebop, but it's one of those when you see it, it's like aha kind of moment, or wow, that's really interesting kind of moment. And I'm like, I want to hang on to this. I want to wait for that moment.
Yeah. I love
and I
those
know
discussions.
You two know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Oh, I can't wait.
I think you'll actually really enjoy it. It's really good.
Okay, so that was we summarized episode 1. Do we have anything else specific about episode 1 we want to discuss?
Okay. I have a negative. I rewatching the first episode. While it is a perfectly fine and serviceable first episode for shows like it of its era, it felt very cookie cutter. In the sense of hijinks ensue. Hijinks ensue. It's like you could always tell where the hijink was and kind of got an idea of how it was going to turn around. And at least I did. And to be fair, that could also be I have seen this before, so I had foreknowledge. But I did try to watch it and just watch it from the perspective of I'm watching this for the first time. And I think if I watched this now as opposed to when I was younger, I wouldn't have liked it because of the first episode. And I say that because in the time we've had to watch this and come back and record, I have sat and thought about it. And I tried to remember my thoughts on the first episode when I first saw it. And I didn't really like the first episode then either. Mostly because I was more confused. Like, why is everyone Vash? Does anyone know who Vash is? As an adult, that's the point.
Yeah.
But teenage me's not smart. But I watch it now. I'm like, now it's mostly like, I don't know. Part of me felt like I could see kind of, again, even in the Wild West, you had hand-drawn, semi-accurate wanted posters.
What would you have done differently?
I would have at least maybe had when Loose Ruth, no Judge Ruth, had actually had the wanted poster for Vash, because it seems like that would make sense. Or because we see him very early on getting the after-action report of what happened at the bar from the local lawman. It seems like someone would have that. Now, I also get that Vash does create a lot of destruction where he goes, but you're telling me every single place there's no survivors, as we see there are survivors.
Well,
Some since
Right,
3
but
years
with
old.
a big event like a big disaster or something like that, not everyone's going to have seen who caused it.
True.
And
then I go back to, then how are they blaming it on Vash? There's that part of my mind. It's like, this
You're
event
starting to sound
happened,
like
yeah.
me. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, who knows this is Vash? I mean,
It's because
spoiler, you watch the show, you get how this happens.
yeah.
But like it's the stories going around from person to person to person, where like you're asking about an event that happened. It's like, oh, what happened? You know, what was going on?
Yeah, sorry, go on.
And like even in the case of the wanted posters and stuff, like when you have people who may have heard one thing or another, and you're just kind of putting that together, you don't necessarily get the full picture.
And to be fair, I can accept that. I would still expect to see some kind of wanted poster. Each of these characters comes in, even the insurance agent, have nothing at all other than just the vaguest description, not even like a composite sketch made from even the collective gestalt. Because I figured you'd have to have at least something.
They had red coat, which is accurate. Which sounds silly, but it's accurate in the
yeah, there's a logic part of my brain is like, but what if he changed the coat? Obviously, the art director's not going to do that.
I mean, that's exactly how it happened in the the Old West as well. Like you just kind of get the descriptions and you work with it.
Yeah.
I feel like in this case,
had a mustache.
Yeah. I feel like in this case too, like we're introduced to the legend of Vesh the Stampede before you're introduced to the person, so it kind of works in that favor.
And to that extent, like, yeah, can I hand wave that specific part of it? Sure, but just the excessive hijinks kind of, and again, this kind of plays to Nick's point. I feel like the humor doesn't always help it. The gag antics don't always help it. And I feel like there were so many front-loaded in that episode.
Yeah.
That and like this could be just also a victim of age at the time. Mm-hmm. And just having seen other things that have worked and done similar storytelling. I don't want to use the word better, but differently, more appealingly to me than others.
Sure.
I'm wondering if that's what it is. I'm not saying this is bad for the sake of being bad. It's just like, I just didn't care for the ratio mixture of comedy to melodrama.
I think that's also like a cultural difference too.
True.
This is actually something that and yeah, we'll talk about it again, Brotherhood, but shows that are based on manga, there's the thing about manga, and especially like comedy in manga, is that manga you're reading at your own pace. You read as fast as you read as fast as you can read, as you linger on the pictures you want to take in on. There's, I do comics and stuff, so I know that like you can do some things with like the size of the panel on the page kind of controls, quote unquote, how long you're looking at it, or like how much time it represents. And one of the things in going from manga to anime is because you only have the one square to put everything in, all of the timing changes. And so the timing of comedy just changes completely. And I think it's something that, like, in a comic, all of that waka waka is a page, it's like a side doodle, it is something that is more in passing, whereas to keep that in and put it on the screen, it ends up getting more focus than it would have had in a comic. And I think this might be a case of that, where we're in the transition, like in trying to be faithful to the comic, you take this aspect that gets blown up bigger than it was supposed to be and stands out in that sort of like unfitting kind of a way.
And I think you're right. I think that's really what it is.
Okay, I win. I get it.
You win. Congrats. Moving on, I believe.
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah.
All right. We go on to a little bit of a jump to season 1, episode 9, Murder Machine. This this one I actually appreciated a lot because it takes Vash and puts him. And obviously, I've only seen 3 episodes, but of the 3, this for me made him the most human and probably the smartest of the 3 episodes.
Yeah.
They're going across the desert in a bus, as you know, one does around this time of the year, and they come across this guy who is dying of thirst. Of course, they give all of Vash's water to make him feel better. And we are introduced to him. I forget his name.
Nicholas D. Wolfwood.
The D's important.
That's right. But I feel bad because he's actually a really interesting character.
Yeah. My
He's a
boy.
priest, and we know he's a priest because he's carrying a cross with him in the desert, which was way too allegorical.
We'll get to that in the notes.
Trust me, I did my research on him.
All right, good.
Good man.
So we got Wolfwood here, and Wolfwood and Vash's interactions are stilted at the beginning because I don't think Vash entirely trusts him, especially with the introduction of 7,500 different names.
Yeah.
But then Vash observes Wolfwood, being nice, giving his food to children. And they have a touching moment to the point where they're sitting next to each other and laughing on the bus, with the girls just staring. Eventually, the bus stops. There's a guy who's injured. It looks like he got hurt on the arm, which Vash realizes isn't from a human. Children get kidnapped. And we find out they're kidnapped by robots. As one does in the middle of the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Vash and Wolfwood go off to stop the robots and save the child, because Wolfwood's a good guy. But I feel bad when I do this because I'm skipping over so many parts that are funny, like the Wolfwood wanting Vash to go in a confessional that he keeps portable.
His portable confessional. Just a tiny, birdhouse-sized church he just slams on people's heads.
I actually put in my notes, the one thing Christianity still hasn't invented yet.
Oh my god.
So, they fight robots with Wolfwood getting Vash's gun because it's given to him, and Vash doing his thing. And Wolfwood ends up being pretty good with a gun.
Yeah.
For being clergy.
A man who has said he has never fired a gun before has pretty good precision suppressing fire.
Yeah.
But eventually they get all of the robots destroyed to the best of their ability. They save the kid, bring him back, and that's really as much as I remember of that episode.
Yeah.
Well, there was the end of him shutting them down.
Yeah, Vash going into control room, and I love this. Talking to this, it's just yeah, we're in an alien spaceship, and then he goes in and talks to the main control panel. I said as though it were an old friend or the ghost of an old friend, perhaps. That is the tone of voice that he uses when talking to it to shut it down and stop the robots.
My notes continue my Doctor Who analysis of this because, again, I'm flashing back to the 2005 season 1, series 1, whatever you want to call it, with Christopher Eccleston. He's in there and he's traveling around, and boy, does he know a lot of these things, and it's inexplicable why he knows a lot of these things to any new audience members or the people in the cast that aren't supposed to know why, and it's almost like he has hidden knowledge that he shouldn't if he was naturally part of this world and not for someone else.
Is it ever explained with Vash?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
That is the
another clue in this episode is earlier when he first sees the robots, he's like, why are they still active? They should be powered down by now.
Right.
Long
And
past their
that's-
expiration is, I think, the specific
Yeah.
thing he says, which is like
Well,
very specific language to be
Do
using.
you remember what he called them?
No.
He called them immortals.
Really?
Yeah, maybe I misheard it, but I was watching it and I rewound it and it still sounded like immortals. But and I'm like, okay, so first off, he knows what they are. He recognizes the weapon damage to a human.
Mhm.
So he knows them, not only what they are by name, and he knows something called immortals should have an expiration date. And not only that, when he gets there, again, addressing it like the old friend, he's the one that comes to face him, where he gets the mysterious second gun, and we don't see the second gun, but we know it exists. And it's very close to the third gun, Bob.
I know, this is the episode that introduces L Third Gun.
Well, no, this episode introduces L second gun. Third gun you haven't seen yet.
Okay.
But like I said, they're very close, very physically close together.
It's his dick.
That's why the D in Wolfwood's important. But he talks to the bot before dealing with it, and he's just like, there's no one left to defend. Like he clearly is far more aware than anyone else. And like I said, any other person with a reasonable lifespan should be aware of these. Any reasonably intelligent person of this era or this civilization should be, because he knows things beyond that clearly.
Yeah, so for the followers, like the setting of this world is that it's this huge desert planet, and there are sporadic like communities across it that are kind of clustered around these like old technology
that looks like light bulbs.
Yeah, they look like giant light bulbs, but there's like a lot of like debris, and it looks like, you know, craft spaceships and stuff like that, that they kind of have built around, but their technology level is a lot further behind that level.
It's essentially, you take the World West setting and then intersperse into it ancient technology just out of the ground. It's almost like old Russia in Destiny 1.
Yeah.
There's just all these things that are there from a bygone era. We don't know how they work, but they're there.
So the other thing is, I watched, of the 3 episodes, I watched this one in Japanese just because I was curious about the voice acting comparisons. And he doesn't call them immortals, he just says that this wound was made by something not mortal.
That's probably a translation thing then.
Yeah. No, I just thought it was an interesting...
No, that is, and I kind of love that. Normally I'll put the English subtitles on to look for those kind of differences or see where dialogue might be different. For whatever reason, it didn't strike me to do that this time. But yeah, and that explains why they're quote unquote immortals. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think it just means like not they're machines, like they're just
Yeah,
and I agree with you 100%. I just think it was like interesting choice. Dubcast. Okay. But yeah, getting to the point of it's like he clearly is far more aware than experts, which we will see later. Proof on this technically earlier.
Don't worry
about it. Don't worry about it. I will say though, to your point, Bob, I would say this is not necessarily yes, but no. I agree with your assessment of this is the smartest we see him as. But there's also kind of the realization, if you're watching these all in order or even out of order, this is the moment we really get that firmest confirmation that he's always been this smart, and we're just realizing the extent of it further and further. And it's kind of like when, for me at least, when like I have those moments in shows or movies or books, it's like, oh, this character really is not only the crouching moron, hidden badass, he's also far more just knowledgeable than anyone realized. Like, oh yeah, he's clearly intelligent. Like, no. He's playing 5D chess. The rest of us are still on checkers.
Yeah, it's this incredible thing where like each episode we watch introduces a new layer of he is not who he says he is. How many layers are you on, my dude?
How many layers of ancient aliens are you on, my dude? Earth.
I did really like him in this episode.
Yeah.
I like the way we address Wolfwood's character in this episode. There is the comparison by Millie or not Millie, by Merle. You two are exactly the same, really. That's why you two don't like each other. But we see that kind of confirmed. Wolfwood has 3 little meal bars that remind me of like old Hershey nuggets. I see around like the holidays.
So me being a big Metal Gear Solid and specifically Metal Gear Solid 3, I think those are very specifically supposed to be Calorie Mate bars, which are a like food rationing kind of product. So
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you're right.
But so in retrospect, that is like something you would actually see in like emergency ration and like lifeboat supplies on like a big ship.
Oh, I agree, and I fully acknowledge that's what they are more likely than not. Just the visual of the yellow wrapper and something about that size just makes me think of, oh, those look like Hershey Nuggets. That's just where my mind went immediately. I'm a child.
Yellow would be Mr. Goodbar, right?
Yeah, yes, you are correct. The Mr. Goodbars. That's why they're good, and that's why he gives them out to the children. But that's just it. He takes these ration bars, which also considering anyone that's fully aware of how the series goes and what the secret behind the science technology in the desert is, makes sense that there's emergency ration bars.
Yeah,
somehow that is a technology that exists here.
It's a like an interesting piece of like foreshadowing of some of the later reveals.
Yeah, it's a lovely anachronism that shouldn't be there, but clearly is.
Yeah. And accepted by the people in it. Like, the people understand, like, oh, yeah, it makes sense you would have some of these.
Yeah. Old West and, concentrated meal calorie bars. These are the things that belong together in this reality. What do you mean that's not how things started elsewhere? That's weird. But he gives them out to essentially hungry, not necessarily starving, but maybe definitely hungry children. He gives them out to them. And just because he's a kind soul. And that's, hands down from everything we've seen of Vash, that's the exact same thing he'd do. So they are cut of the same cloth. So when you see him carrying around his literal actual cross to bear, I wonder what's in there, Wolfwood.
Yeah, because they definitely have the same thing of like, you are not who you say you are. It's like, all right, you're a priest. Oh, I've never used a gun before. You are too good of a shot. You are just lying to us. Why? What are you hiding? Who am you?
How'd you, William, tell that apple there with that gun? I don't know what you're talking about. Luck, beginner's luck. You did it 5 times. Beginner's luck.
The grace of God. Beginner's luck.
But yeah, it's clearly introducing one-time character, Nicholas D. Wolfwood. Will never see him again. Ever.
Actually, the thing that I like most about the relationship between Wolfwood and Vash is like, because they are so the same, to whatever extent, Wolfwood gets the absolute soul read on Vash. Because it's when he comes back from giving the kids the calorie bars, Vash is like smiling earnestly in a way that we have not seen. And there's even like a change in his tone of voice where it's just like, you are being earnest for the first time that we've seen you like on this show. And Wolfwood just calls him out, just like, you're not who you say you are. I recognize that. And I can kind of respect that because same, but we're both agreeing we're just going to play that we are what we say. And there's like this weird mutual like respect of people with like dark backstories that they're trying not to reveal. But just like we get this moment of it's just Wolfwood and it's just Vash and it's just like he just cuts through Vash's bullshit. It's like, and it is kind of interesting because it is like the least waka waka moment Vash has. And Wolfwood is there to see it and just be like, this is the real you. And I really love that moment just for like their relationship, but also for like what it's sort of like saying about Vash, because it's just like, okay, if you don't like this goofball that he usually is, like, yes, he's hiding something else. And yes, this show is willing to be like, yeah, we're going to cut through it at moments. And the person who's behind it is somebody who you're going to, like more if you don't like this goofball.
It really is the anime Spider-Man meme at this point with them. Pointing Spider-Man meme at this point with them pointing at each other. But yeah, it was a good introduction for the fourth wheel of the car of main characters that will be here.
Yeah.
And it was a good way to introduce a character who has just enough of design. You get the feeling, yeah, we'll probably see him again, but not enough to necessarily guarantee you're going to see him in the next episode.
Yeah. Also, is this the time where we sort of introduce the idea of, like, sometimes anime likes to use Catholic symbolism?
Oh, yeah.
I think we can lightly talk about it, but there's one we really want to save that for later.
Oh,
and I
definitely.
know
But just,
exactly which one I'm referring to. I know you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a reverse weeb thing where, like, they're really into the iconography of the West and, like, using it in things without any of the, like, weight behind it.
They lack kind of cowboy hats and the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
I like to imagine that whichever manga artist or anime studios did it first just said, yo, have you checked this out? They believe some guy died and came back 3 days later. What is that about?
Well, it's the equivalent of getting the kanji that you don't actually know what it means, but it's like, yo, it's kanji. That means it's like,
Yeah.
it's Oriental. That's cool. It's like, oh, okay, all right, dude.
Yeah, it means honorable. It says trash fire.
Uh-huh. I might get a tattoo of a kanji that said trash fire.
You know I could be talked into it at this point. And it wouldn't take much effort. It'd just be like, yeah, okay.
Uh-huh.
I dare you. I'm like, how many whiskey am I on? 1.5. Yo, I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so that was Murder Machine.
And it was very murderous and machiny.
Yes. And then the last episode we watched was episode 6, Lost July.
I thought that this was the most unique of the three. We're introduced to a town that is greeting Vash in its own way. Like, he knows the people there almost, and they know him.
Yeah, it is very directly after the events of the previous episode that we did not see, but, like, I double-checked ahead of time, and I'm like, no, you get enough context clues, it's fine.
So the town is running around. There's even little kids shooting suction cups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's cute. And the town is going to be building this plant.
Restoring, specifically.
Oh, thank you, restoring. And they bring in this chief engineer who, thankfully, everyone in town tells us that she's pretty, because maybe I wouldn't have understood.
Mm-hmm.
And what did she roll in on?
The
She rolled in on a Jawa sandcrawler.
And literally everyone's like, oh, she's so pretty, she's so beautiful. And I'm like, because she has the biggest boobs, I'm very confused. That being said, one thing I did not get in this episode, and I'm going to need you guys to explain it to me. Is there something about dogs that I do not understand?
I need a context.
The guy driving up to the girl saying, I'll be your puppy.
That's a kink thing.
Yeah, Bob, have you not heard of sub?
Well, I have, but then Vash being this chick's dog or
Yeah,
puppy. Well,
I mean-
Dom, or her sub, excuse me. She is his Dom, and he's into it.
it's an interesting take.
Yeah, it's kind of that, and it's just kind of like expanding on the premise of like following her around like a puppy dog.
Yeah.
But that's how she treats him, and it's just
Yeah.
Gee,
Anyway.
Bob, she treats him poorly. I'm
It's
sure
comedy.
that has no relevance.
a fair point. We start having issues with the power plant, and we find out, well, prior that the lady, Big Boobs or whatever her name is actually,
Elizabeth.
thank you. She is the chief engineer. She doesn't get a cool visor over her eyes. And she is trying to control one of the reactors that had turned on. And Vash goes to figure out what's going on, runs in there, and I believe this is a moment where he gets assailed upon by a guy with a love for blades.
Oh
Well,
yeah, this
and-
has
Yeah, the
second
previous
time.
the previous night in the hotel, he was also put upon by this dude.
Yeah, this is an episode where like
He constantly is getting attacked.
yeah. But also like it moves really quick. Like not a lot really happens, but there are a couple of things that we linger on that really are the ones that land.
And Vash actually does a lot of good action. And shows also his pacifism because he doesn't outright kill people.
Yeah.
But the people trying to kill him.
Yeah, he looked for ways to like disarm people and like
I believe that poor
immobilize
guy,
them.
yeah,
There's
laying on his back.
there's a really good moment where he is holding Elizabeth and dodging bullets, and if it weren't for the they're dodging the blades. If it wasn't for the blades, it would just look like they were doing a tango, like a very elaborate one.
After he subdues Blade Guy, Elizabeth is revealed to be the actual evil. The thing is, he does have valid reasons.
Yeah.
She explains that she had lived in this town back before.
Can I interject on your statement of valid reasons? Now, I could
explain the reasons first.
Okay, yes. Please explain the reasons. I have some concerns.
Okay, Elizabeth states, so I'll preface it with that. She had been in this town that Vash had come to.
The third city of July.
Yes. Destroyed the town. Killed most of the people. Not all of them. But most of the people. Through his, cyclonic waves of destruction. And the people who survived, including her parents, died through starvation. Though she survived. And so she's taking her revenge out on them.
Okay.
I know, super basic.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Vash Stampede, the Stampede, did cast Cyclonic Rift at Overload and sent all the creatures out of the city and destroyed it. Then Chaos reigned. Supposedly.
I'll grant you.
I can accept her wanting revenge on him. If she wasn't 3 years old when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very traumatic experience.
That's a very traumatic experience that you remembered at 3 years old that clearly. At 3 years old.
That's why I think some of her memories of it may be a little miffed. Like the strong emotional moments and imagery may have stuck around, and kind of the feeling of it, but not the specifics.
And I get being the sole survivor at 3. There are many things, and I get, yes, because of her memory, which I understand. They kind of address this to a degree, but I would think, and I stress I would think, because I don't believe I've had any traumatic experiences from 3 years old. Who knows? But if I had that, I would like to think I would understandably definitely be hostile to the person I held responsible for that. But I would rather, instead of putting them inside, or instead of pulling essentially intentional Chernobyl, I would like to at least corner them in the situation where they had to answer my questions without the threat of Chernobyl.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's essentially what she did. Is I'm going to pull a Chernobyl, because I'm going to constantly say that, because that's what I thought of during all of this. Just to get the guy that I think did this.
Yeah.
Now, if someone, even at the age of 3, killed your parents, that would mean you didn't have any connection to your parents. But growing up with people constantly telling you, oh, look, there's poor Chuck. Remember that guy who killed his parents throughout your entire life? I don't think that would have built some sort of...
Not to mention an entire disaster in the city.
I'm not saying there wouldn't be animosity. I made it very clear. There would definitely be animosity. But I would want, essentially, I would want to throw him in an interrogation room and get answers.
She doesn't have any questions, though.
And I guess to me that, and I get for the sake of the story, yeah, that makes sense. In the narrative they're trying to install, because everyone hates Vash the Stampede, and maybe it's just me, but it's one of those, I would still say, like, I need to know why you did this. Why did you just come into town and wreck shop? What made you do that? That seems like something someone in that position would want to know. Again, I haven't been in a trauma like that. I don't know people, to my knowledge, that have been in a trauma like that. So I can't say that 100%, but it feels like there's that missing middle, or I don't want to say middle ground, but that missing desire for closure and understanding there.
Was it?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Just like, was becoming a chief engineer and, you know, actually learning as much of the technology, the forgotten technology, as she knows, was that part of her grand revenge plan? Like,
and yeah, that's just like, I'm going to do this because this very specific situation is going to happen. Like, is it? Or maybe you just get rich and then hire an assassin, which would also be a more logical jump in this scenario.
I think in this case, I think what happened is that because she was so young and because the trauma probably manifested more emotionally than anything, that all of it kind of crystallized into anger, which urges to action. So she wants to kill him as, like, that's her goal. And I think also probably wanting to learn about all the technology and kind of develop a mastery over it to some extent is kind of a coping mechanism for dealing with it.
I guess.
That's my very unprofessional opinion.
And like, go ahead, Bob, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I feel very bad for putting it this way. I think we may be overanalyzing.
Yeah.
It's merely a case of they needed someone to fill the role of, I wouldn't say villain
antagonist.
Of the week, but yeah.
And I get that. It's just,
and also
it broke the suspension for me.
Antagonist specifically in the sense of him facing his past too, like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she represents a repercussion of, you know, something he was involved in, one of his, which, you know, admittedly one of his own, like, a thing he is ashamed of, a thing that one of his regrets, I guess. But
guilt out the wazoo.
Yeah, guilt.
Yeah.
But I agree with the way that you're putting a lot of things, and it's funny because this must be, you know, what I sounded like when we were talking about Powder in Arcane. I feel
no, we swapped roles.
Yeah, but like, and honestly, I couldn't tell you why it like works for me here and didn't there. I think because like the thing that works for me is like where like Powder just went completely Joker-fied. Like Elizabeth here has like a like.
She's almost evil Batman.
I was about to say she has like a more measured response, but no, she's going to do a Chernobyl to kill one guy. Like, okay, no, it's not really
after like 30 years.
Yeah, like
No, I will say, I will also throw this out there. The one plus side I do have to say about I was 3 when this happened. Okay. Not only was she 3 when this happened, when we see her memories and we see what we assume is Vash, he looks exactly the same then as he did now. Boy, isn't that an interesting little subtle visual storytelling element. It's not just, he looked very similar and then got older. He looked the same.
Yeah.
And that's the one point of credit I felt like was served by all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why this bothered me, so I don't know how to, or why this didn't bother me, so I don't know how to offer anything. Sorry.
I will defend the Joker Powder as, but she's old enough. This would make sense. She would.
So I think it's kind of the opposite thing. I think she was, you know, kind of like Joe was saying, like she was so young that like she did not like her only reaction to it was one of like anger and revenge, and because that feeling forms so like primordially at such a young age, like
yeah, she doesn't have the mental capacity to process any of it.
but like that urge did not mature along with her otherwise. Like it is still a childish want for like immediacy and revenge, but she had enough time to mature in her technique about it. That's kind of the only thing I can think of. But I'll give it to you. Like there's definitely a way that it doesn't make sense.
I have a question.
Okay.
Did she know when she took this job that Vash would be there?
I can't believe that.
Because I think she just showed up and then met him and was like, "Oh, this is my chance."
Yeah, kinda. Because the Sandcrawler, with all of its Jawas, rolls into town. She disembarks with her, or with someone that sure looks like a bodyguard, and then all of a sudden, Vash is here. I'm like, you can't tell me she became an engineer to wait for this specific incident to happen.
I think there's some element, like, I think she was always going to come to this town to work on the plant, but there was probably, like, again, the show really revolves around, like, the speed at which news travels. Like the very opening of this episode takes place in another town where they are talking about, like, yeah, we just got it over the wire. This contract that you're putting up on the wall actually has already been filled, and, you know, talking about the events of the previous episode. So I think there is an element of, like, she probably did not know he was going to be here. This was not some, you know, grand scheme, but it could be that, like, oh, she heard rumors that this town that she's going to anyway, he currently is in. So maybe had time on the it's not a steamroller, crawler? The steamship.
The sand steamer.
The steamer, yeah. She probably had time on the steamer to maybe arrange for the assassin to meet her there and then do some of this other stuff.
I would say that just, I don't know, this of all three episodes, this is the one that a lot of my suspension of disbelief just fell apart.
Yeah.
On a lot of things. Like, this is awful lot of narrative convenience.
Also, Chernobyling was kind of her last-ditch effort after trying to murder him normally.
She did hire the assassin first.
Okay. Counterpoint. If I want to go out for a burger and the restaurant is full, my next option is not to Chernobyl the area because I can't get a burger. Maybe I go out for a taco instead, or I go to the store and buy something else. What
have you been thinking about that burger since you were 3 years old?
Then I've got some severe issues because
Yeah, she does. Here's the thing, she does.
I mean, okay, to be fair, but I've also had years in between then to, as well as a parent, judging by her finery, money to just get a burger between then and now.
Oh yeah, being an engineer in this world is like the big bucks.
Yeah,
because everybody relies on this weird technology that nobody knows.
Couldn't you just hired assassins to just go and find a Vash?
Oh no, you gotta
make it personal.
Yeah, you gotta watch him go.
Okay. Tweak the idea then. Capture me a Vash, and I want to kill him. I'll kill the Batman.
Maybe she's the one who put the $60 billion double dollar bounty on his head.
You know, I don't think that actually ever does get addressed beyond, like, who put, other than it's like it's related to X event. Yeah, I don't think we ever know who formally made that bounty.
Okay, so tell me this. Did this suspension of disbelief ruin the impact of the later scene where they are standing in the crowd and having their own little bubble moment? Because honestly, like that moment made me tear up when I was watching it. I'm just like, that landed so hard for me.
Okay. So here's my answer.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Okay.
No, because it's again, this is absolutely a Doctor Who thing. Just the I have been attacked and accosted and tried to be hurt by you, but I forgive you, and I'm sorry. And again, Russell T Davies, I've got your number. You absolutely watched this show and just curved a character off of this. That said, it kinda did ruin it because then there's that key critical moment at the end of the episode, because I'm sorry, Bob, we're not just skipping over the rest of your summation. And we're cutting to the end here. He says, I don't remember if he exactly said I'm sorry before. He said, I don't even remember. I have no memories before that except of my early childhood and just being there in the aftermath. And I'm like, okay, that's very interesting. However, Then she comes in with, and I'm sure I'm not getting the exact phrasing right, but the implication is, oh, maybe it wasn't him. And that was the moment with everything else before it. I'm like, to give you an idea of my mindset. To this point, I'm like, okay, she was three. I get it. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but fine, anime. But then maybe it wasn't him after all. You could audibly hear the snap in my mind of like, now if at only this moment you are accepting the fact that maybe it not him, that means at any other point there had to be at least a shadow of a doubt in your mind to entertain this.
Mm.
And that's why I say, like, I'm not sold on it. Until that, I'm like, okay, I can just accept it. But now is the moment. Like, oh, but what if, like, that? So yes and no. It was a beautiful scene. That in of itself was not robbed. That was a beautiful moment because, to a degree, outside of being the 3-year-old thing, when this happened, those kind of scenes I am completely sold on and in love with, because we've all been in one moment or another where we have acted poorly on maybe misremembering something, mishearing something, and just acting rash.
Mm.
But it was 30 years ago, so she's 33 in 30 years at 33 years old, even with a shadow of a doubt. No, it's always Vash. Like, this tells me at some point you had to have this inkling in your mind in order to just go like that.
Well, I guess there's also the element too of like, I didn't read it that like she had hatred from that moment, because like we see the flashback and she reacts how a 3-year-old would, of just like sad and scared,
Right.
like, and like trying to put together the timeline of what happens there. It's like, okay, like her parents, like there's chaos, her parents die, she runs into Vash. I think what happens is like Vash sort of like keeps her safe until he can drop her with somebody who will like be able to better foster her because he's danger or whatever. And then like I imagine everything else is like she's hearing like she's kind of putting everything together through the rumors and the hearsay in the story too. So it's just like, oh, did you hear about the town? It was destroyed by Vash. He's the man in the red coat and the blonde hair. And then you get there and you have Millie and Meryl pointing out, watch out, this here's Vash's stampede. And it's just like, oh, good, you're here. Like, but so the same thing, like, kind of more like a Powder situation where it's just like, it was probably like during some of those years where she was like putting together like, why is my life so hard, and through rumors and like just piece together information for her too, building up this like, oh, if it wasn't for Vash, my life wouldn't have been ruined, I wouldn't have been sad. It's just like there is one of those, it's just like she does have like a like the emotional seat of it is very strong and very like primal, but the actual her logic of oh, I'm going to kill this guy no matter what, even though I barely know anything about him, is just like, okay, yeah, that is something, a middle schooler says when they're upset, and I maybe that's what I read it as, and that's why I can buy it. I don't know.
Maybe. I guess I'm just, for me, I'll be the first to say, intelligent people make a lot of stupid choices at times.
Yeah.
But
especially when you're upset.
Emotions.
Yeah. But,
yeah.
But for that, as long as it's been, I still feel like as intelligent as you are, you can't tell me there's not like some kind of therapy program in that world, and you didn't maybe once consider going in.
I think it's called The Bar.
Shit.
Uh-huh.
You're not wrong.
Or portable confessionals.
Yeah, well, again, with as many anachronisms that exist there, I can easily see like, yes, there's some kind of like rudimentary, yes, lay on the couch and tell me what you're thinking. Yes, my name is Dr. Freud. Going on there. I don't know. It's
well,
like, as intelligent as she is in 33 years.
There would have been one, but she didn't make it to the planet.
You're not wrong.
So
you're absolutely not wrong. Close your ears, Bob. You shouldn't know these things yet. But I don't know. It just seems like a lot. And I guess, I'll take a page out of my history where I guess there is some real world grounding. So here's, again, peel back from the curtain. That's not I think terribly bad.
Mhm.
I have grown up always being proud of my Native American heritage. My dad installed that at a very young age for me, and I wasn't 3, but I was however old you are when you are in first grade when
Okay.
my dad told me what I was.
6-ish.
Okay, so I was twice as old as her. I lived longer, lived harder.
Twice as big brain.
Yes, I knew my X-Men backwards and forwards. And I remember him telling me of our heritage, but as I grew up, and I do go to therapy for some issues. One of those being that my father had always never really had a straight answer for what tribe we belonged to, and that's because his mother grew up in an era before digitalized documents, and a lot of the documents he had were on paper and typically held by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, we have some ideas, but they're not germane here. Burned them all. Mm-hmm. I'll let you go where I'll tell you guys later, but
Sure.
audience, go where you will with this. It might be just as exciting as you think. And that did dominate me for a while in the sense of I have no history to draw upon. We've got a tribal name, sure. We have nothing, though, in the way of official document that can tie us there, other than you look at my dad, you look at my uncle, you look at their mother, you know where they come from. It is undeniable. But that did pull on me hard for the better part of, well, probably about the time I came to deal with it, was about 33, 34 years old.
Mm.
And I will say, well, definitely not every waking day, but whenever something like family histories came up, yeah, it would draw on me. And I guess to that degree, that's where I'm also coming from. Unless someone brought up Fascist Stampede, you can't tell me she was thinking about this every single day. And that's kind of the angle I'm approaching this from.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand it lingered, sure. But to have festered like this, I just have a harder time with.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
But like I said, that's me. These are two vastly different things. I will completely agree to that.
Vastly different things.
Ow. Hold on. We need a pun counter and a band hammer. Hold on.
And like I don't want to come down to the like, it's just a show explanation.
Right.
But this is a show about like being over the top. Like when you look at the action scenes, when you look at the caricatures of certain kinds of people, our giant from the first episode and all of that. So like the idea of we are going to blow up this melodrama to this sort of like over the top, unbelievable aspect. Like I can see how that is on a line where you having some, real world grounding resonance can't buy it anymore. I totally see that and I totally get it. That being said,
it is just a show.
Yeah, it like they are blowing it out of proportion. It's not going to make sense because they are blowing it up for the sake of being a bit larger than life. I mean, we're also glancing over the fact that in this same moment we get this reveal of, Vash is an amnesiac protagonist. We didn't even like point that out yet. Like we said it and then just moved on, but it's just like what an anime trope to have an amnesiac protagonist. Like really? He is also that too? He doesn't just have a secret past? He doesn't even know his secret past? Like come on.
Now I might be forgetting something, and this is where yourself or Joe might be able to refresh my memory or know something I can't think of. This is the earliest I can think of that kind of protagonist existing.
No.
I mean,
like I said, it's the earliest one I can think of. I'm not saying it isn't, or it is absolutely the de facto. But if it is the first depiction of it, or at least the most popular, again, this could be the trifecta of the show that launched 1,000 archetypes.
I mean, again, I think when you talk about like to a Western anime audience, I could kind of believe it. Yeah. I do want to say like Amnesia is a bigger video game trope, especially like JRPG kind of trope. Sure. Cloud Strife? No, he's not amnesiac. He's he's half amnesia. I haven't played that game.
He has what we like to call the trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say something else, but I'm trying to keep it PG-13.
Yeah. No. I don't know. It just like I feel like it. Maybe it was not overplayed at the time, but I do feel like, it was kind of thing. There's a lot about Trigun and Vash in particular that sort of like, when I think about like the edgelord culture of the mid to late aughts, it's just like, oh yeah, you could say almost all of it came from here.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Because I know there was a show I saw in early 2000s that a roommate of mine had that was an anime, and I never watched it. And knowing what I loosely know about it now, I'm glad I didn't. I saw Desert Punk, and I saw its DVD cover. It's just like it's cribbing off Trigun, visually at least. As I come to understand it, it takes a very harder left turn than Trigun does.
Yeah, Desert Punk is, I'd say, not a good show.
Yeah, it's kind of the come down I had on it. It's like, this sucks.
But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like, not only is he our hero and he knows a lot of things he shouldn't, he also
doesn't
which is
know.
The funnier thing, or the more interesting thing, he knows a lot of things he shouldn't, but he's still amnesiac about anything about him.
Uh-huh.
Like, wow, that's a heck of a pill to swallow there you got, bud.
Convenient that there's some exposition that we don't need to address giving to the audience.
And yeah, 30-year-old bloodlust of a 3-year-old I can't accept, but this is like, I'm on board for that. And it's like, yeah, it is very interesting because it makes him such a more interesting character. It's like the big, it really emphasizes the who are you part of the question.
Yeah. It's just like, who are you? And then he goes, I don't know. And I'm just like, okay. Yeah, I think that him being amnesiac, that's the part that really, I'm just like, are we really doing this too? You know too much to be amnesiac.
Yeah. I remember first watching this one. I also don't remember.
Does he mean it, or is he just saying that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going on. It's like, okay, Doctor Who. It's like, don't believe the Doctor. Why? He always lies. Like, is Vash the Stampede just lying this whole time? Or is it, I don't remember, is really his coverall for, you really don't want to know the circumstances?
I feel like because he is so guilt-ridden, he would not show his facade to Elizabeth in that moment, and he would answer honestly.
Counterpoint.
Okay.
I have had family that served in certain areas of the world in the U.S. service during very heightened, politically charged times in the U.S. history.
Okay.
1960s.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about what happened there for a reason. Or they'll say, yes, I was on this ship. Okay, so were you part of... We don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's... Originally, when I first watched the show, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. He doesn't know. That's super interesting. And I still like that read, but as an adult with more experience, I wonder if that's really what the author was going for, is he's trying to protect you because what he saw, or maybe even what he did, was so awful. It is too painful to deal with.
I mean, it sort of like, I could buy that if he was specifically just talking about what happened in July, which he is, but then by elaborating, like, I don't remember anything except for some early childhood and right when after what you're talking about. Just like, if he was doing that, I don't imagine he would like
clarify.
Yeah, the entire like middle of his life in there.
I don't know. That's kind of lie I think I'd come up with in that kind of situation if I was trying to do the kind of you really don't want to know kind of thing.
Maybe.
But as I said, again, yes, it's a show, and yes, it's an interesting, and maybe it's just the author trying to make it more interesting by leaving it vague at the time. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's just like, again, the benefit of age in seeing this over again is, I wonder if, and kind of a change of perspective.
I would like to bring up the fact that this planet is called Gunsmoke.
Oh, what?
Really?
Yeah, I knew it had a fun name, and yeah,
That's very anime.
it is. It
has 2
Nothing.
suns and 5 moons.
Mm-hmm.
I do recall the two suns because of the desert.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyone else hear the Star Wars theme play?
A
little bit.
Two suns.
Sand gets everywhere.
What was there anything new to say in Vash resolving the plant issue that we kind of didn't touch on in the last episode?
This one had a very abrupt ending compared to the other two.
Yeah.
But other than
Which
that,
I
not
kind of did, because it ended on that high
Yeah.
emotional note of revealing to Elizabeth that, like, yeah, it was me, but I don't know either.
Again, this is in the
The
moment.
assassin guy was there watching him do it.
Uh-huh.
Yes. I do like in this one Vash commune compared to previously / later in
Yeah.
episode 9. He just goes in, works the computer, shuts it down. This one he communes almost telepathically with the reactor and then deploys the fuel rods as
Yeah.
if by magic. And I'm like, I still don't know what my read as an audience member is supposed to be on that specifically. Is he telepathic, telekinetic? Is it just the way it's supposed to be interacted with? I don't know. And I appreciate that ambiguity there.
Oh, I read it as him absorbing the energy.
I mean, my
Oh.
note was, is Vash doing a spirit bomb? Because it's like, yeah, lend me your energy. All I did put is like Vash walks into the crowd and everyone is now sterilized. Because I'm assuming that's supposed to be some kind of radiation. It's never explicitly said, but
it's Getter beams. It's fine. It's fine.
it's but I'm like, everyone that touches him is now dead. They just don't know it yet. And I'm like, it's like, is this just me working on some issues with Chernobyl? Probably. But man, there's some real ties there I can draw.
Yeah.
But no, I will say, in the moment of that ending, I was initially upset, but almost seconds later I realized, like, no, this is good. And I appreciate that kind of ending, because yes, I want more, and that's how you should do an ending, leave them wanting more.
And this was specifically like why I picked 9 then 6 is because exactly what you're saying. In 9, like, he just like uses a computer to stop the thing. This is a way more intense, like, oh, he doesn't just know these computers, he has some other like more direct connection to the technology in some way.
This is where I like to use my multiple words. Him shutting down the computer by traditional means of interacting, interesting. Him shutting it down by communing through the spirit waves is intriguing.
Yeah.
It's one of those like, wait, hold on, go back. What did you just do there?
Yeah. So I guess that makes this a time to ask, hey, Bob.
Oh, no. We got to ask a different question.
We got to ask a different question?
Hey, Bob, how's that Bebop rewatch going? Or watch?
Oh.
Yeah.
The
I
Bebop
completely
second.
forgot about that. To be honest, I have slowed down a little bit because of the holidays. Only caught one more episode.
Reasonable.
I am enjoying it still.
Okay, how far did you get? Just out of curiosity.
Episode 3.
Oh, you're still on episode 3?
12, yeah.
No, that's fine. I was just curious, because it's one of those, like, I specifically asked for the Bebop section. I will make the Bebop section. The Bebop analysis ongoing.
I know I'm gonna definitely go back and watch the rest of this show again.
Yeah, I think I am
forgot
too.
how much I liked it.
Let me address some closing thoughts then.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I, much like yourself, Joe, I think I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it, because I don't think I like it as much as I remember me liking it.
You should say that, and mentioning Bebop. For me, this show, and bringing back Nick's comments earlier, there's a lot more comedy to action. I feel like this episode screams more to what I think an anime is.
Mm.
A non-anime watcher.
Mm-hmm.
And Bebop. This follows more of a tropey, ha-ha, funny action thing, as opposed to thinking about it. I guess maybe it was just these 3 episodes.
Yeah, it might
But-
be. The first, I think it's the first 10 episodes are kind of like story of the week type things. And then the middle section, you start getting a sense that there's like a bigger arc going on. And then when certain people show up, then it's just that till the end.
Yeah, at some point it kind of becomes like a shonen show. Like there's there's an enemy group and there's a sequence of enemies and we just kind of work our way through them for a little bit.
Okay,
and the comedy kind of goes away.
Yeah,
because the one off, it's, I don't know. It didn't give me a sense of caring about the characters, I guess.
And let me not counter, but elaborate on why I'm rewatching it, Bob, because I very much felt what you're saying. But however, much to kind of what Nick and Joe mentioned earlier, the first 10 episodes also bleed directly into each other. So
yeah.
By as much as kind of getting these episodes is a good idea to kind of see interest, it also is almost a disservice to it because of that nature, which is probably the greatest, I would say, hindrance in a good assessment of this. It bleeds, but it bleeds so well. I remember that because it's a good area.
And it's like, you can't really like just cherry pick episodes from later on without appreciating like the build up into it and stuff. So
and the beginning of the series is like so easy to binge because it rolls like butter.
Yeah, and that's why I think I'm gonna. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For someone like me who would just, I watched Dragon Ball Z. That was it, but that was my Funimation. If I were to catch it like the way it was intentionally set up, out of order this way, I don't know that I would continue to watch it.
I think DBZ worked better that way.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I see. That's just the thing. Like I never really caught. I only ever caught episodes of DBZ, and I never really got into it. So
I remember the draw for me watching DBZ was, those guys are weird and they're fighting in the ring. Wait, hold on. There was a green guy that had, I don't know, big Popat energy. They fighting in the ring with him, but now it's like an insect guy, and it's been like a month since I've had a chance to see it. Oh, and now they're fighting a very interesting looking little white purple man elsewhere, and the grass is purple and the sky is green. Okay, I need to watch this to understand what I'm seeing because now I just gotta know. So that's one of those that's how the draw worked for me. I think, and to your point, Nick, I remember seeing most of it initially before I got to borrow my friend's DVD as a kid. Seeing a lot of it out of order and just not caring as much. But it wasn't until I got to see it all and get like the context of again, especially those first 10 episodes. I was like,
yeah, I mean, the action's cool, even if you don't understand like the context of who the people are.
Right.
Yeah.
Good action, but it's like I don't know, I don't care. It's like I mean, I can also watch Yu Yu Hakusho, which I'm getting a lot of action in and a reasonable amount of comedy. And that's why I say I think I personally am going to have to do a rewatch of Trigun to counter or to parallel with Bob's Bebop rewatches or in this case, watch because it has been in rewatching this a very long time since I sat down and watched Trigun, and I'm wondering if I'm just looking at it with rose-colored glasses and not being a fan of the 3D animation style they're going to be using for Trigun Stampede.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vash has a slightly different look. The code is different. There's a lot about it, the visuals I don't like. But I'm starting to wonder too, because I had this conversation the other day with someone. I said, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I'm being unfair to what's coming out next. Yeah, I may not necessarily like the look of it, but what if it tells the story better? And that's why the other side of the coin is I need to see this again to see if this is exactly what I remember, or is this a rose-colored glasses situation?
Yeah, that's actually very much what I'm doing, because like I remember loving this first stretch, and then like as soon as we got into like, hey, here's going to be a consistent antagonist, I was just like, he seems kind of stupid, and like I kind of like I love Vash's development over that course, but like everything going on around him, I was just like, and I'm curious if with a more modern eye, a more mature eye, if maybe I'm gonna have a. I'm really curious what my take is going to be now. Actually,
And I will also say this too, because this will address some of the anime we go into in the future. Bob, a lot of like 90s and even early aughts anime had that like first 10 or so episodes where it's like villain or antagonist problem of the week and would build up to a larger threat later.
Okay.
Or a larger ongoing story. Because I can tell you there's one and I think this is my time. I'm gonna announce it. Bob, I pulled an audible without you knowing it. I've added a show to the list. And it's in this bracket we're in. I know,
yeah.
shock. And it very much has the larger looming threat later on. It's longer than 26 episodes, but very much like the first 10 to 15 are absolutely the villain of the week kind of thing, or in this case, the opponent of the week kind of thing.
Gotcha. And grading on a curve, I would probably give this 7 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you think you would want to continue watching it, or watch it in order?
With the descriptors that you have, maybe. I will give it a maybe. I have my show right now that I'm watching.
Yes.
Mm.
And we have stuff coming up.
Yeah.
I don't want to push anything to the future aside. Make room for this, and with the episodes that I watched, I don't know that I would. I'm willing to understand that this is just something that I have to watch all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Fair.
Before we wrap up, I do want to point out that the manga creator Yasuhiro Naito does like the anime. He
Good.
loves it for being able to distill the ideas he was exploring in the original manga into something that a viewing audience can appreciate. And notably, he also enjoyed it so much that he frequently incorporated filler characters from the show into later chapters of the series as he was making it.
I thought I remembered that, but I
right.
couldn't remember if it was this or something else.
Oh, that's rad.
And that's all I've got.
Yeah. Is it time for our last question of the show?
Yeah, I was going to try and sneak in and steal your question, and I had myself on mute, so go ahead, buddy.
Oh no, go ahead and do it. Yeah.
There's a reason I wanted to sneak in and do it, since I have our new secret player on the field. I
Uh-huh.
have a title for it only I know.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Bob, your options are, or the original ones. We have, if it weren't for Carcoon killing me, I wouldn't be the protagonist I am today. Or the other awesome sci-fi series released in 1998. Because I'm changing the title because I forgot just now we used the other one.
That's fine.
Or The World Through a Japanese Lens.
Okay. That's one way of putting it.
World through a Japanese lens, or what's the other one?
The other awesome sci-fi series released in 1998. Or,
Okay.
if it weren't for Carcoon killing me, I wouldn't be the protagonist that I am today.
I'm going to go with that one.
Okay, Bob, guess what? We're going back down the road of shows I've tried to show you.
Oh.
Bob, welcome to Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah.
Yay.
And I have a problem because I have about 20 episodes out of this not more than 20 episode series that I want to show you, and I'm going to be furiously working through the bracket tonight of what ones. I will tell you now, you are probably going to see or hear the words Dark Tournament.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
That's the one with the picture of the front of a kid making a finger gun, isn't it?
Yep.
That is!
I remembered! Because I was like, oh, that poor child, he's playing the game wrong.
Yeah, he's playing Cartman's favorite song, Finger Bang.
Okay. What were referencing South Park? I think we got to pull the eject button.
Okay, so yeah, Bob, it's my time to shine.
All right, good. So we will watch that in preparation for next time. And until then, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you all next time.
Yeah.
Bye. Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
One, two, three. Love and peace. Did he say that in the episodes we watched?
No!
Second
Okay.
episode.
Oh,
it's in the
confused.
second
It's in the
episode. I was going
second
to
one.
explain that.
What does that even mean?